London was a disaster. Packers go to London, and we should have won the game, and it was a fail for us. Disappointing loss for us. Just, yeah, boom, just terrible. But let's get to the intro. Oh, hold on. Welcome to PackReacts. I am your co-host Jeremy, along with Mike is our other co-host, and we are back, folks, once again of PackReacts on the channel here. And tonight's topics we'll be discussing are the Packers-Giants, Packers-Jets, breaking down those games, Devontae Adams fight we'll be talking about, of that scuffle on Monday Night Football. We'll be also talking about ahead of the schedule, maybe if we have time, and some other topics while we get to it. Mike, do you have anything before we start?
Not really.
No.
I think it'll be an interesting conversation. I don't think it's as roses as it was last week.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's really all I have is definitely disappointing. But also, I don't know if anyone's watching, but you can watch the Bears game right now. Hope we don't get copyrighted for that. But, yeah. Go Commanders. That's all I have to add. Go Commanders.
Exactly. All right. Before we get started, I'd like to get something off my chest here real quick. Yesterday was exactly 2 years ago. I made my decision for college, for coming here at York College, Pennsylvania. That's all I gotta say. 2 years ago was my decision I made.
That's nice. Was it a good decision?
Yes, it was a good decision. I'm still here.
You could have went to University of Wisconsin Green Bay.
I could have.
Yeah, I was actually considering it, but my parents never wanted me to go to visit there. So,
never got the chance.
Your friend Jack.
Yeah, let me see. Yes, Jack is here.
Nice.
Sweet. All right, let's
Happy
get
anniversary
started.
For your love affair with your college. There you go.
Exactly.
All started this day 2 years ago. Okay.
All right, Packers losing it against the Giants in London. Terrible. Just absolutely terrible to see that when you had the momentum. You saw the Cheesehead fans with Cheesehead TV, another Packer fan sponsorship out there, fans. They like to go out there, had it all packed with the Cheeseheads, everything, and nothing. We get the absolute L. Terrible. Absolute L. Mike, what were your thoughts of that game?
Yeah, first off, I mean, it definitely seemed like it was a fun time, like we were saying last week, for the fans that did go out there. I think the Packers fans definitely had, the advantage in terms of the number of people, and like it was pretty loud. It seemed like almost a home game. Sorry, the Bears are about to score. Yep. No, he got tackled at the 5, but that was a pretty long run. Damn it. Sorry. So. From a fan standpoint before the game, it definitely seemed like it was worth the trip. From the team standpoint, up to about 2 minutes left in the first half, it seemed like it was definitely worth to come out for the game as well. Then everything kind of started to unravel. They gave up that, I think, was it a touchdown before the half or a field goal? A touchdown, right? And then they got a field goal right before the half?
Yes.
Yeah, so, you start off with that, and then you come out for the second half and completely lay an egg. Is in one, their performance sucked, but two, they actually laid an egg and they didn't get any points in the second half, which is absolutely unacceptable.
Yep.
And it's not a game that you could say can't come back to bite them. Like the Giants, I don't think are a great team, but now they have the tiebreaker against us too. Like we were saying against the Buccaneers, we have the tiebreaker against them. Well, now the Giants have the tiebreaker against us, which definitely could come back to bite us. We're 1.5 games behind the Vikings. Still early in the season. Don't get me wrong, but don't want to you don't want to drop games that you should be winning. And like Jack just said, it was a tale of two halves where I'm thinking in the first half that they look pretty good, and then they just came out in the second half. My dad texts me and says, this team's gonna blow it. And I'm like, I don't know about that, and yeah, they did. I mean, he was right. He's more on the pessimistic side, but he was right this time. So yeah, I mean, hopefully it's a rude awakening for the team and for LaFleur, and to something's wrong. I mean, I think something was wrong last week too against the
Yep.
Patriots, and they got lucky. Imagine if they would have lost that game and lost this game. I mean, that's basically a season killer to lose against really, two teams that you should definitely beat.
Yep.
But can they come back from it? Absolutely. Can they lose to the Jets? Absolutely not. I mean, if I think you lose this game, that's pretty damning for the season. I mean,
Yep.
obviously you could come back from it, but I don't think you could lose to the Jets. Although the Jets are probably better than they were, definitely
Yeah.
better than last year and the year before that. I'm not saying that it's going to be a pushover or it's going to be an easy win whatsoever. But you got to win this game at home, and it's really, I wouldn't say the season's on the line, but it really, it's. I think the Super. I mean, there's no chance you lose this game and it somehow win the Super Bowl, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You say it could happen, but it's just
Very
unlikely.
unlikely. Yeah. Definitely.
Justin Fields just overthrew the tight end wide open in the end zone. So there you go, Justin Fields.
I like to go back of like Matt LaFleur and Joe Barry. Mostly Joe Barry's my concern are Packers defensive corner of literally the adjustments of like you have all the talent in the world. The team spends a lot of draft capital and free agency signs and trades, and you hope it's expected to be, especially coming in the offseason, going into the season especially, we were expected to be like a top 10 defense. That has not been it, except maybe one time. That's the only time it's ever occurred really for this Packers team. It's Joe Barry has got to make the better adjustments. You got to play the guys right. Like week one, you didn't have Jair Alexander on Justin Jefferson. You got to play better of the slot. You got to do much better because you went against these giant receivers. They're not great receivers. They're not like top elite talent like Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, which Mike Evans didn't play against the Packers, but still, like I'm talking like talent wise. You got to do a better adjustment of that in the secondary, especially. And the run defense has been the killer and the Achilles heel for this Packers team in Matt LaFleur's era. You got to do a better job of that. They have suffered so many times with that. Couldn't really stop Saquon Barkley. Like it's only worked one time, so that's been occurring. Matt LaFleur, he's got to literally get the offense. We can run the ball. So we have to yell at Matt LaFleur, run the ball. You saw what happened when we played against the Bears. We won because of the run. Keep using the run. Now I know Rodgers can do whatever he wants of like he can make the throw, he can make all that. But you kind of don't have to lean on Rodgers that much, especially when your run is the success. So you can go back to Matt LaFleur's first year here. It's better for us to run the ball, and that worked especially with us. Rodgers didn't have to do much. He just put up like good numbers. That was fine. Rodgers not doing well. You gotta use the run game a lot more to help this team win. That's all I got to say, though.
Agree. So I'm going to talk to that, but also the Bears just got stopped on the 1 yard line on fourth down, so the ball's going back to the Commanders. So no touchdown for the Bears after a pretty nice drive. So there you go. Yeah, so I think two things there you were mentioning. The defense. The defense has been pretty unacceptable in my opinion. One, because you said like this is not a not talented defense. This is a very talented defense, and I think a lot of it has to fall on the coaching staff. Joe Barry, obviously being number one. I mean, LaFleur obviously has to take responsibility for the defense too. But you can't have this much talent on defense and then play like they've been playing. I think they've probably been playing very conservatively, which I don't really understand in the two games against a the third string quarterback and Zappy, right?
Yes.
Or the Patriots, and then a banged up Daniel Jones, who admittedly looked pretty good. I mean, running wise, like ankle wise, but he's still banged up.
Yeah.
And then Saquon got hurt a little bit, but I mean, for the most part, they kind of contained Saquon. I got to say, other than that like screen pass on that drive that they scored a touchdown on that he got like 60 yards on. But for the most part, Saquon was pretty much held in check. it was really towards the end of the game, like Daniel Jones started throwing on them to like no-name guys.
Yeah.
And that was very concerning to me because, our cornerbacks were supposed to be good.
Yeah.
Savage, I think, had a terrible game.
Yep.
I think Rasul Douglas had a terrible game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Rasul Douglas killed us. Like, with that penalty, I think he got.
Yep. I think it was PI.
I think one of it was hold, but then wasn't there a?
Well, yeah, there was holding.
Wasn't there like an after the play penalty that was completely unnecessary, where he like pulled someone down or something?
I think so. Yeah.
There was something, but there were 2 sacks that they lost 10 yards on. And LaFleur talked about this in his press conference. If they get the ball 2nd and 20 instead of getting a first down, those drives probably stall there, and maybe the Packers win. So, like, look, a lot of things went wrong in that second half, but number one to me, I think, were those penalties that gave them from 2nd and 20 to first down and 15 yards. So Rasul Douglas was a killer that game, and I think he was not very happy at the end of the game. But I think both those calls were the right calls, and I think I think he's a big reason they lost that game.
Yeah.
So that's on the defense. The defense needs to be better. This defense is supposed to be the cream of the crop of the league and the best part of this team. And honestly, it's been not that great so far. Yeah. And, that's pretty unacceptable. I know people were talking about the Broncos defensive coordinator, Vero. I don't know how you say his last name, but the Packers were going to hire him.
Yeah.
And they didn't. They picked Joe Barry over him. I mean, obviously right now, early returns is not very good, right? The Broncos number 4 defense in the league compared to us, where I don't know where we're at, but we likely probably have more talented players than they do. I'm not fully up to speed on the Bears. The Broncos defense, but they have Surtain, right? Patrick Surtain, but we have Jair. So
exactly,
and I'm sure they have a lot of guys up front. I'm just not too familiar with the Broncos, but obviously the defense needs to do better. The offense side of things, I agree with you. They need to run the ball. Now we can go down to those 2 runs, 3rd and 2, 4th and 2, where they RPO'd out of it. In hindsight, is 2020. I see what LaFleur is saying. I think Dylan walks in if they hand him the ball, but if they're doing an empty pressure, probably the right thing to do is throw the ball. Now the problem with that is if you have an empty pressure, right, and people could be open, but you still got to get them the ball, right?
Yeah.
And the guys are coming after you. What happens? You get the ball knocked down. Now, is that going to happen more times? More times than not? Probably not. But it happened twice in a row, and that's ended up being our demise. Was those rushers hit their hands on the ball? So, to me, I probably would have ran on the 3rd and 2. But I think what Rodgers said was better. I think it was earlier in the drive when they threw that deep ball. No, I'm sorry. So what I want to talk about, right? And we're getting some, Chubb, right? Randy Gregory. Oh, you're right. They got Gregory, right? Because wasn't he going to the?
He was going to stay with the Cowboys.
The Cowboys,
and then he decides not to.
Issue. Exactly. Yep. So, really, to me, the turning point of the game was that 3 and out right after the Packers the Giants had that long drive. I felt like they had the ball forever. Where they completely marched down the field and scored a touchdown. And we responded with a 3 and out. I think that first down play was the problem. They threw like 3 balls deep, right? At like covered guys. They should have ran the ball on first down. And that's where I think we need to run the ball. Now, you could bring the RPO where Rodgers picked pass instead of running. That's easy to pick. But I think you got to run the ball on that first down because, they just had completely used up so much clock on us. You start the ball, you just try to get some yards, try to get some momentum instead of trying to take a deep shot after that. You don't have any momentum right now, and you're gonna go take a deep shot, and then take another deep shot, and then take another deep shot, and give them the ball right back. That was the killer for me because then you gave them the ball back with the defense, not having much rest at all. And then Saquon completely got that 60 yards. And then at that point, they're going to get at least a field goal and lead at that point, and they ended up giving a touchdown, which was a killer there. But that was the turning point of the game, was that 3 and out, I think. Obviously that wasn't great to watch that drive, but what was it? It was tied at that point, right? So if the Packers go down and score themselves, they probably win that game. But because they had that 3 and out, that was just really just completely changed the game.
Mm-hmm. I want to go back on that, like that drive when it's like 3rd and 2 and 4 for 2. I definitely agree with you. They should have ran it. I would have given it to AJ Dillon there just to be safe, because he's known for getting, like, do you need that 1 yarder? He's going to get you it. Compared to Jones, it's like very tough to get, because Dillon's a bulldozer and he will fight for those yards. So I would have loved them if they ran it just on that 3rd down. That would have been nice, because then it would have been less stress, and like Rodgers could have maybe like ran it in if he tried to really. But again, he's got to do a better. Rodgers got to do a better job. He's absolutely got to do a better job. Like, he's throwing it quick, throwing it too fast. Like, yes, he wants to get that touchdown quick and like snap, persist. But like, again, you can't just like, as soon as like 1 second, boom, you can't just keep doing. You have to like wait. You have to find guys up, because there was another guy open the end zone when Rodgers threw it. There's a guy wide open, and Rodgers doesn't throw it. He doesn't recognize it.
I mean, I don't think he had a ton of time. The guys are kind of getting in his face. I kind of agree with Roger. To me, it's less those 2 plays and more what happened early in the drive. Really, it's that drive before. But if you want to just look at that one drive, I would even look earlier in the drive. That they probably should have taken a shot to the end zone earlier instead of taking. I mean, Roger said this on McAfee too. They were kind of taking their time, letting the clock come down. Now, honestly, what I would have done is score as quickly as possible. Just let the Giants try to come back down on you. I mean, they can't really throw the ball. I mean, they were throwing the ball pretty good in the second half, but you're down 7. I guess if it was tie, okay, then take your time, right? But you need to score, right? Like, this is not like we can get away without scoring here and go to overtime. So they were too lackadaisical about it. They should have taken more shots and not worried about the clock, because even if you tie, you need to tie it up, right? And then you worry about stopping them after. You don't worry about not giving them the ball back and waste time and kind of not take the shots to the end zone. So I think that whole drive really wasn't great. Those 2 plays, obviously I wish they would have handed off to Dillon, because I think he walks in, but they didn't. So, and I see why Rodgers probably picked the pass instead of the run there. If they are taking an empty pressure up, which I believe they did, they must have failed at it, because they left the guy wide open in the middle. But I mean, I guess they did come pretty good on the outside, which is why the pass got batted down. So, that's probably what they were trying to do. They were trying to bait him into picking pass and then have the guys come on the outside. But whatever. I mean, the Giants, they deserve to win the game based off the second half. A lot of times the games won in the second half, right?
Yeah.
So you can't have a good start to the game and not put a team away and then just fall asleep in the second half. And that's been something the Packers have never been able to do, is put a team away. We've said this before. I don't want to sound like a broken record. You got to get to a lead if you're the better team, and just keep the gas pedal going. Like, look at the Bills. The Bills completely steamrolled the Steelers this week.
Yeah.
Right. They had that first pass 99 yards, right, to Gabriel Davis.
Yes.
I'm not saying you needed a 99-yard pass, but they kept scoring early, often, and there was no question ever that they were going to win that game. That's how you win the game if you're a much better team. The Packers clearly are not a much better team than the Giants, because 1, they lost, but 2, even if they were better, they didn't put them away, and then it left the door open for negative stuff to happen, and it actually hurt you. Look, if you're up 40-0 at halftime, you probably could lay an egg and still win the game in the second half. But not if you're up. What are they up 4 points or whatever?
It was way more. It was a bit more than I think.
It wasn't 10. They were up 17, right?
Yeah. It was 2010, I believe, at halftime for the Packers, I think.
Was it 2010? All right, so they're up 10.
Yeah.
All right, that I think that makes sense. So, so 10 points is not, you can't win the game on 10 points at halftime. So, I mean, you could, but it's not likely. So, I think we all know that was not good enough, and you're not going to win the Super Bowl playing like that, and it's a
Exactly.
concern. I don't think it's a one off. I think it's we saw this in against New England. We got
Mhm.
lucky.
Yep.
We didn't get lucky last week, and now the pressure's on to perform.
I think that's been like the NFL story this season. Like you can't trust a lead by like you could be up by 20-3, for example, like us or 20-10, whatever. It has been you cannot win the first half. You have to win the first quarter, the second quarter, the third, and fourth. You have to win the game.
Yeah,
It's the game's not over at the first half. You've seen how many times throughout the whole NFL it's changed. The Ravens have done it twice with the Dolphins and against the Bills. It has occurred.
look at the
Jaguars,
Raiders.
yeah, Raiders against the
Raiders,
Cardinals.
Chiefs, Chiefs.
Oh, jeez, yeah, that too.
This is just what do you call it on Monday night? You know.
Yeah, yeah, that's been the story, and I don't know if I said it on this channel, but I said on my radio that after week one, when I was watching, like, this is going to be the season that no one's going to know what expect. Like, we're not going to expect any teams to be great except the Bills. Eagles, yes, they're in consideration. They're good. But, like, do we know they're going to be that great? Like, that's the thing. No one's expecting, like, it could be a new team different every week, like college football. You don't know who is going to do great. When last year, you kind of had a sense of who's going to be great and who wasn't. Now, it's still early in the season. Like, don't get me wrong. But, like, you see that, like, their teams are expected to be great and they're not performing. Like the Rams, for example, they're 2-3. They still have the Super Bowl hangover. They're not performing well. It has been the story. Like most teams are 2-3 or 3-2 right now in the league, and usually that's been the difference.
Yeah. No, I mean I think the NFL is any team's. I have the standings up right now. It's really anybody's year at this point. I mean, you
Yeah.
only have one undefeated team, the Eagles, right? They're still undefeated.
Yes.
5
They're
and
the
0,
only team
5 and 0.
undefeated. Yes.
Then you have a bunch of teams at 4-1.
Yep.
But do I really think any of these 4-1 teams are really that great? I mean, the Vikings, I don't think are. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think they're better than the Packers right now. But
Yep.
the Cowboys look pretty good. But again, I don't know if that's sustainable.
Yep.
Buccaneers are 3-2 like the Packers.
Yeah.
And the AFC, you get the Chiefs. They look good last week. I mean, they almost lost that game, right?
Yeah.
But they look pretty good after they, started to play well. The Bills probably look like I think they're probably the best team in the league right now,
Same.
other than the Eagles. But
Yep.
again, I don't know. The Eagles is sustainable to beat the Bills in terms of record for the entire year. But
Exactly.
the season is really anybody's game at this point.
Yeah.
The Rams are 2-3, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But so the Packers are not out of it by any means. But I think what this
No.
is meant to be is it's a wake up call, right?
Yes.
We can't be lucky all the time. You need to, if we are a Super Bowl team, we need to play like a Super Bowl team in the regular season, in the playoff.
No.
Like this is not good enough right now, and
No.
I don't think anybody can say it's good enough. And it is concerning. I mean, a lot
Yeah.
of the people on Twitter that usually are not pessimistic are not happy right now, and I think
No.
for good reason. I think the Packers don't have the talent they had on offense to fall back on.
No.
That they had in the past. I think Rodgers is not playing that great right now. They
No.
don't have Adams.
No.
And honestly, their best player on offense right now is probably Aaron Jones, and they're not giving him the ball much
Exactly.
enough.
That's
I don't
what
think
it is.
AJ Dillon's been playing as good as we expected him to this
No.
year, but I'm not as worried about him. I mean, I think
No.
they just need to give him more opportunities as well.
Yep.
But I think Aaron Jones needs to get the ball more, and I think
Yeah.
we need to try to get Romeo Dobbs the ball more. I think we need to try to get Tunyon the ball more. I think we need to try to get Cobb, who Randall had a great game. He probably had the MVP of the game.
Well, he kept. I think it was last week. Rogers went on Pat McAfee show, and he at least said like we need to get Cobb more involved in this offense.
No, he said
like
that, and they did this week.
Yeah, like he's like nobody expected, including myself or probably you, Mike, of like how good he was going to be this year. He's done a little bit. He's done better than my expectations. Like I only expect him to do a little role, but he's putting up like he's doing a lot better than some people think and will give him credit for.
Yeah, no, I've been happy with him. I think Lazard's been playing well.
Yep.
Yeah, honestly, the receivers have been good enough in my opinion. I think it's been Rodgers has not played well. I think again he's overthrown a lot of people deep.
or if it's
Yeah,
like a
it's
screen
kind of
too.
seen. Yeah, he almost looks like he looked before they drafted Love when he had the back-to-back MVP
Yeah,
seasons where he's overthrowing people, not really efficient. So I'm not sure what's going on. Do I think he'll snap out of it? I hope so. But I don't know. I mean, he has done this for an entire season before. Then he had two good seasons back to back.
yep.
But there is precedent for him not being at his best and kind of sustaining that. So we'll see. We'll see. But I'm not saying that, I think we have a section later that are we worried? A little bit, yeah, a little
I,
bit.
I'm a little bit. All right, let's move on to our next section, which we talked about a little bit, which was Devonte Adams. Devonte Adams gets in a fight by shoving a was it a camera operator or media person? It was they were
Yeah, it was a freelance camera person.
okay, freelance camera person. He gets mad and he like shoves him, and he pressed charges on Devonte, and he gets a misdemeanor. Was it? And he's supposed to go in court next month about it.
Is that what
What are
he's
your
supposed to be in
thoughts?
court next month? I didn't
That's what
know
the report was from
that.
the Adam Schefter on ESPN. What are your thoughts on this? This is not the Devonte Adams I know. Like this is not him. I know him as like he's that gentleman, be that class guy.
Right. Okay, so do you want to take this first? But I have some strong thoughts on this.
All right, I'll go first. So, the moment I saw that, I'm like, what is this? Because this is not who I remember when I remember watching Devontae Adams on the Packers. He never did anything like that. He absolutely didn't. Now, he was probably like, he was just upset. He was mad about like losing the game right then and there when he had it and he knew it. It was just annoying to see that. Like, why would you even do that in the first place? You know better than that. He's upset. And I think he's like upset that he's in the situation, like of how he thought he'd be great with the Raiders. He thought he would be better with Derek Carr. And look how that's turned out. Look at your record. He's probably kind of regretting it of joining the Raiders, and he might want out already, but he can't because he signed a big contract and he wanted that money, and he got that, even though the Packers offered him more. So he made his choice. He made his choice, and he can go with it. I wish he stayed on the Packers. It upset me when he left and when he wanted out. That was annoying to see. Devontae can do whatever he wants, but watching that just disappointing to see out of him. Definitely disappointing to see out of him.
Yeah, so my thoughts, and I've been pretty vocal about this on Twitter, talking to right when I first saw it. So I watched that whole game on Monday night. Entertaining game. I like the game. I think a lot of stuff happened that game before I get to this. Yeah. I thought that was a really good game, one of the better games of the season. So
Yeah.
so that's one. The crowd was definitely into it. I know we're talking about the refs later, but I thought that was interesting how into the crowd was. Which I got to give it to the Chiefs. That crowd is real good compared to Lambeau. Lambeau would never be like that. But okay, so my first reaction. So I think I didn't see it live. I saw it like when they did the replay and I was very disappointed. And the reason why I was disappointed is because Devontae was Aaron Rodgers is probably my favorite player, but Devontae Adams was number two. I've followed Devontae since the beginning of his career, and when he had his first contract coming up, I remember being super into making sure we got him back because I really thought that Brett Hundley year he really came out of his shell, really showed how good of a player he could be. Then Rodgers came back, and then he just took off.
Exactly.
So we've seen Devontae since he was a rookie come all the way up to where he's at now. And that's not him. And I'm not saying that he should go to jail. He should be in prison for life.
No.
It's less the action and more just that's not him. Like I don't understand how that happened. And now I'm not done. I'm actually probably going to talk for a while on this because I want to get this off my chest. Because I've been pretty critical of him, I'll be honest. And I think that he should get suspended one. Why?
Yep.
Because you can't do that, in my opinion, and get away with it. If Mike Evans could get suspended for pushing down a player, right, who knows that he's in the pads, right,
Yeah.
and if he could get suspended a game, Devontae's going to get suspended at least a game. I'd probably suspend him for a game. I think 2 games is probably fair too. I think anything more than that might be a little bit much. Legally, I think the kid was right to what do you call it?
Pursue
Press
charge.
charges. Why? Because look, is Devontae Adams going to go to jail for the rest of his life? Do we think he should go to the jail for the rest of his life? Obviously not, right? No one's saying that.
No.
But from the kid's standpoint, I get why he has to press charges, because if he wants to sue him in civil court, which he probably should, because you could probably get a nice settlement out of that. And if I was him, you were him, I think you'd probably want the settlement.
Right?
So you kind of have to press charges there. Otherwise, it kind of ruins your case where you say, well, why didn't you press charges? If it wasn't that big of a deal to press charges, why do you think we should give you any settlement here? So he kind of needs to press charges. Then the cops get this thing, right? And like he did assault him. Like there's no people are trying to say like, oh, this is ridiculous. I'm like, no, it's not ridiculous. And so this one girl, if you look at her post history, she goes, this thing was utterly ridiculous. So that he was charged with assault. So some person responded with like, oh, like legally, like completely like respectful, like legally it is assault, but obviously it's not like if you punch the person, right?
Yeah.
So I read this, and so this girl who's a Packers fan, by the way, so this is not a Raiders fan or anything. So I'm not being biased, just my opinion. So she responds and says, legally, you don't have to mansplain what legally means. I'm a paralegal. I know what this means. So she basically like she's basically, for lack of better words, like shitted on this kid for just making a point, not trying to say she's a female, doesn't know anything. Basically, just shit on her. So I read this. I go, what are you talking about, right? So I responded. I said, great, that's awesome that you're a paralegal. I would love to use your knowledge here. So I sent her a text of the misdemeanor, the charge you got, and basically I can pull it up, but it says, the intention to inflict, not necessarily having to inflict injury, but the intention to and purposely inflict injury. And if you see what happened, like, look, let's kind of wind back to the situation. He's walking off the field, so it's not like he's running out trying to find people to push. No. Like, obviously that would be like psychopathic, right? So he's pissed off, right? Yep. I get the pissed off, right? You don't want to mess with someone who's pissed off, but all things happen, right? Now, did this kid do it on purpose? If he did it on purpose and ran into him on purpose to try to get him to push down, then obviously the kid's in the wrong, right? But the thing is, there's no real way you can prove that, because, I mean, maybe he was just not paying attention. Now, should he be paying attention? Sure, but should you not get into a car accident? Like, look, things happen, right? He wasn't paying attention like that. Okay. Sometimes, have you ever walked out and somebody came the other way and you ran into each other, or like you're walking, some guy's walking this way, and you kind of do a stutter step and you guys go the same direction, right? Like, so stuff happens, right? Like stuff.
Exactly.
You have to have as an adult, right? You have to have the cool. And I get being annoyed. Like, I've been annoyed. I've lost my cool before, but I've never like just pushed a random stranger down like that. Like, you kind of have to just stop and say, like, hey, what the hell, man? Why'd you walk over here? And then walk around him. Like, if you watch what he did, right? He like fully extended his arms, right? To the fact where like his arms are like that after he pushed him. The guy falls and he just looks at him and just walks by. And that's look, maybe he just it was a what do you call it? Reaction, like reflexes, right? He just pushed him down because he doesn't expect him. It was like self-defense. Okay, maybe. But then he looks at him and just walks by. And I'm like, this is not Devontae. Somebody put a video on, what do you call it? Twitter that I saw when it was on the Packers. He knocked down a referee or some guy on the bench when it was running out of bounds. Somebody pushed him. And he like helped the guy up, put his hat back on. Like that's the Devontae Adams we know. Now, I know he's obviously not pissed off like he was in Raiders, but something is a little bit different. And I'm not liking it, and I don't like what happened here. And I think he needs to be punished for it by a suspension, definitely a fine. I mean, you're going to find people for their shoelaces being a different color. You got to find somebody for that. And I think he needs to be charged. Now, again, he should be fined by the maximum fine by the law, and the kid probably should get a settlement here. I don't think you really can fight this. Now, you could say this is ridiculous. This is, well, why are they not talking about Brett Favre and talking about Adams? Like, I mean, look, Brett Favre, what he did was obviously wrong, and I don't like what he did. I don't agree with it, but I mean, that has been talked about quite a bit, right? And news right now, like this was breaking news that he got charged, right? A football player getting charged for something happened on the field. When was that ever happened before? Like, I get why this is news. So the people trying to say this is like a race thing, or like, that's ridiculous to me. Like,
that is definitely.
I don't know, but and also this girl's trying to say it's mansplaining, and I think that's part of the problem here is instead of just looking at the facts and making an opinion, people are trying to like say, well, because this is a African American male, why is he being charged here? He assaulted the kid, really, is what happened, right? Again, the punishment has to fit the crime. He's probably not going to go to jail, right? He could go to jail based off the thing, but he'll probably get community service, have to pay the fine. He'll probably get sued by the kid, have to pay the kid like $100,000, and he'll move on. He's not going to lose his job over it. But let's say this was the opposite, right? Let's say the kid pushed Davante Adams when he's coming off, right? What happens right away? The kid's going to get fired, right? Because who cares, right? It's some random kid.
Exactly.
But Davante Adams is not going to get fired over this, but he should have to be held accountable, in my opinion. And look, I still like Davante. I think he's a good guy. I think he's better than this. But even his apology after the game, it kind of was a BS apology, honestly. And he definitely seems like something has changed since he left Green Bay. I don't think he's regretted leaving Green Bay because I think he left for other reasons it wasn't football. I don't think you could leave Aaron Rodgers for Derek Carr if it was for football, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It was for friendship, I get that, but if you're there to win, the friendship is not as important as, having a two-time MVP, back-to-back MVP quarterback. I think it was he didn't want to be in Green Bay anymore. I think he wanted to be back with his friend, but he wanted to be back closer to home. But I think he just didn't want to be in Green Bay is the answer.
Yeah.
And maybe, Davante isn't who we all thought he was. He probably might have, had a ego that we didn't necessarily recognize. But I think it's been more disappointment than anything. It's not even the action. It's just somebody who you think is a stand-up character that was on your team for so long. I'm starting to question his character a little bit, and that's the worst part for me.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to make two responses on two comments. The first one is I just pulled this up on ESPN of the article on Davante Adams charged with misdemeanor assault for Monday Night Football show. It says in the article by, I believe Adam Schefter wrote this. It states in the article, if convicted, Adams could face a jail term of up to 6 months or a fine up to $1,000. Now, he's not going to go to prison, most likely. He's probably going to have to pay that fine, as you were mentioning. The second thing I'd like to mention is, did you see Deshaun Watson's comment on the situation?
I did not, but I have the statute. So I'll pull that up. So I know there's reporting on it, but the statute is where we should go to read. And the reporting was right. I'm not saying it's wrong, but so I think it was. Let me just pull up the statute right here.
So, folks, if you don't know, about
180 days, which is 6 months, right?
Yep. Okay. So just to clarify, if folks don't know about what the Deshaun Watson tweeted last line, he basically tweeted this was disgusting and terrible, very terrible. And I'm like, this is the guy that assaulted women and did that.
I think he probably just wants the attention off of him.
That's what I'm saying.
Hey, that was terrible. Look, is this as bad as that? Clearly not, right? Exactly. The difference is this is on TV. There's unknown there, right? So we don't know fully the extent of what happened. I'm sure it did happen. Don't get me wrong. I'm not making excuses. I'm sure it happened. There's been a lot of women that came out and masseuses. I'm sure it happened. But this is on TV, so that's where there's no question. I mean, you just watch, right? But I'm sure he's trying to get the spotlight off of him. He doesn't really care. He just wants the spotlight, which just to show about his character too. Instead of owning up to it and be like, okay, you got to look at everything in a vacuum. What Deshaun Watson did, absolutely wrong. Yep. Now, we weren't there. There's not a live video of it. If there was a live video of it, he would be probably out of the league if you could see him doing that, right? I mean, just like what happened with Ray Rice, right? There was a video of him physically assaulting a woman out of the league. Totally what should have happened. If there was a video of Deshaun Watson, there would be no question about it, right? It wouldn't just be he said, she said, and he would be out of the league too and probably in jail. I mean, that's what I wish would have happened, but we weren't there, right? So, I don't know.
I mean, that's only happened with Ray Rice, though. Like, you've seen a video of Kareem Hunt of his experience, and he's still in the league with the Browns. He's still like we saw that part, but we don't know the full extent of that.
Ray Rice fully like knocked the girl out, right?
He fully did.
What happened with Kareem Hunt? He was kicking her head, I think.
Yeah, he was kicking. He kicked someone.
I mean, that's not good either. But I think there was some. It was like she was attacking him too, right?
It was like in the hotel at Cleveland or something like that, and he kicks it. And then there's the Adrian Peterson one where he assaults his kid.
Right, that was even worse. I don't know how Adrian Peterson got away with that, and he doesn't even have like a blemish on his record at all. Like everyone still loves Adrian Peterson. Like
that's what I'm saying.
That's the other thing. A lot of this stuff is very like not fairly like approach. So the approach is not fair to it. Like. I think Adrian Peterson deserved more flack than he got. Kareem Hunt, I don't know the full story there. I mean, Joe Mixon kind of did that too, but wasn't Joe Mixon like the girl was like going after him and then like, I don't know. Something happened with him in college.
It was something like that. It was something like that in college.
I don't want to get too political on this stuff because it's not necessary. But what happened here was Davante Adams was wrong.
Yep.
But there's a video of it, right? And no one's saying he should be kicked out of the league. So obviously what he did was not as bad as assaulting somebody sexually in multiple women over a period of time, right? But the thing is that goes to show you that both things are wrong, right? If there was a video of Deshaun Watson and it was clear and what he was doing, he'd be gone. No one would ever think about him ever again. Because there isn't it, you can't really prove it. That's probably why he's, getting the lighter end of it. But you can prove Davante. So it goes to show what he did wasn't the end of the world. Like the kid didn't get hurt. Yeah. Could he got hurt? Sure, he could have, right? Yep. But he should be held accountable. Otherwise, why don't I just go start pushing it? Jeremy, we're gonna go out for a drink. I'm just gonna start pushing you down. You know, right? It makes no sense. And then I see other people like Wes Hodquist and what do you call it? Rob Demovsky, right? Yep. They're talking about this, and I chimed in too. Again, everything I said, no one responded to because no one had a rebuttal to me. So they just like left me on red. Okay, whatever. But it goes to show that I was right. But he was saying like Wes Hodquist was standing up for Davante and saying, I'm not making excuses for Wes, but this kid should have been watching where he was going. He goes, I've been on the sideline for 12 years in the NFL, and I've never been pushed down like this before. And I go, okay, but I've driven too, and I luckily haven't gotten into a major car. Like sometimes things just happen, right?
Yeah.
And then you can't compare it to what you do because, look, should the kid have been paying more attention? Probably. Yeah. Obviously, if he wasn't paying attention, he would have been in that situation. Yeah. But he wasn't, right? And Davante Adams can't control where the kid was walking, right? What he can't control is his actions, and his actions were clearly not right. He pushed him down like that. He didn't walk by him with his hands behind his back and nudge him, and the kid just found out. Oh my God! Like all right, then obviously that is not right. He like pushed him down and walked by, like, all right, screw you, I'm out. Like, come on. There's nothing you can tell me and say that Davante Adams wasn't wrong in that situation.
Exactly.
And that's what's disappointing is that I thought he was a great guy.
Yep.
And I still think he's a better guy than what we saw there. I think he was just pissed from the game. And I think, I don't think I think he definitely had remorse about it afterwards. And I think that's really the important thing here. Was there remorse? I think his apology was kind of BS though too. I think he thought he was right in the situation, which another thing that kind of doesn't sit well with me. But I think he needs to be punished because you cannot allow someone just to push people over like that they don't know, right? It's not like it's your friend, like, oh, I'm messing around with you. Like, even that's not right. But like at least it's friends. This is a random stranger that you just come up to and push. I mean, it didn't come up to, but you ran into and just straight up pushed him down, and it had no remorse after. You could have helped him up if it was just purely reflex and you made a mistake. He just looked at him and just kept walking. So what the truth is he's walking out pissed from the game. This kid walks in a way, he's like, get the fuck out of my way, and just kept walking because he was pissed. He's like, this kid walked in my way. And that's what it was. So to say Davante's in the right there is absolutely wrong, and it's very disappointing in my opinion because I think he's definitely a better person than that.
Yep.
And I thought he was a great person, and he's clearly not a great person. He's definitely a better person than what we saw, but he's not as good as what we thought he was. So definitely disappointing, and I hope the move to Las Vegas didn't change anything in him because he really was a great person on Green Bay. I think you saw, him mature from when he was a rookie to, his last few years in Green Bay, and he became a great player, a great person. I thought it's very disappointing. That's really the biggest thing for me. It was very disappointing. But
yes, definitely disappointing. I mean, nobody's perfect in this world. None of us are. Nobody is. But again, he was in the wrong situation. He shouldn't have not done that. Of course, he was just bad from the game, and he shouldn't have done that. But again, you got to think before your actions. Like actions speak before words. Like they speak. So always be careful. Like always think like if you're gonna do it, just think first thing. I'm like, is this an ethical decision or am I making the right decision for myself?
He wasn't thinking. He just
I know
because sometimes when you're not thinking, that shows who you really are, and that's the scary part. Yeah, that's the scary part.
Exactly. All right, let's turn our way from the Devontae Adams situation to the Packers' upcoming game against the New York Jets.
New Jersey Jets.
Oh, my bad. Excuse me. The Jersey Garbage Jets, as we like to say. We get to play them. This is a must-win, as we were mentioned before. What are your thoughts heading into this game?
Must win. I think they can win. I think they should win. Do I think it's a lock? No, I think the Jets actually have a pretty good team. I think they got a young team.
Yep.
That have a lot of potential.
Yep.
And I think they looked very good last week against the Dolphins. Obviously, they didn't have Tua.
Yeah.
But to put up 40 points, I mean that's impressive. It hasn't been a Jets thing to do really as of late. So, I think it's gonna be a good game. Kind of wish I was planning on maybe making out for this game. Kind of wish I did. Because I think it's going to be a good game. So I'm going to hope to try to make it to a Packer bar in New York City this week. Because obviously the Jets, I have some friends that are Jets fans, so I haven't really looked too much into it, but I'm going to try to make it out there. I think it should be a good game, but yeah, we got to win.
Yeah, definitely. The biggest question, I think it's not really their offense, but just surprise and very young team. I think it's more their defense-wise. Like they got the defensive tackle, Keem Williams. They have Sauce Gardner, who's been the best rookie CB I've seen all year so far. That's going to be the big concern to me is like, how well is this offense going to do against that Jets defense? That's the big concern to me of like, you got to use your chess pieces and not play like checkers, play chess out there and to think, what's the right strategy to use? Run the ball, as we've been mentioning this entire time. The Jets don't have a great run defense besides Williams, but you got to take care of business. This is not, as Mike was mentioning, this is not a lock. We got to take care of business. Packers have won, I believe so far they've won 15 straight in a row at home. That does not matter. Cool, that's a great stat for us, but that doesn't matter. We're trying to win the game right now. We're not talking about the past right now. We are in the present right now, and we got to go out there and beat the Jets. It might be an ugly win, maybe a blowout win. I'll take any kind of win all day because at the end of the day, it matters if your team won or not. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I would like a convincing win now. I really think the team needs that at this point.
Yep.
But obviously, I just need a win. But I think this is a statement game that we can come out against a good team. I think the Jets are a good team. I think they're well coached.
Yep.
But they got a lot of good young talent. I like Garrett Wilson. I like you said, Sauce Gardner. Quinn Williams looking good. I think the left tackle's playing, right? The guy from Louisville. I forget his name.
Mekhi
Becton, right? I think he got hurt last year, but I think he's playing now.
I'm not sure on that, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but they got a good team. I gotta say. And I think they're going to be, maybe not this year a competitor, but next year I think they definitely can be a competitor, get a few more pieces. I think that they're on the ups, which is good. I don't mind the Jets. I don't like the Giants, and that's another reason I was pissed that they lost last week. But the Jets, their fans could use some success. So I'm rooting for the Jets, but not this week, obviously. I think we need to get off to a good start. I think we need to not let down. I think we need to make a statement this game. I think we need to win, and I think we need to win convincingly to propel us the week. So this game against the next week we play the Commanders, right? Oh,
Yes.
wait, is Justin Fields hurt? Shit.
See?
No, he got up. All right, he's okay. Yeah, he seems like he's a little bit shaken up though. So you got the Commanders next week, and then you got the Bills after that, right? So
Yes.
You could use a real nice game, and then go to Washington, have a nice game there to propel you into the big Bills game, which would be a huge win if you could beat the Bills.
Yeah.
So got the loss to the Giants. Got to put that behind you, and you got to win this game, win against the Commanders, and try to have a statement game against the Bills. But Fields is down again.
Oh,
it's not good. But yeah, I don't really have that many thoughts other than they need to play better. I mean, the coaching needs to be better. They really need to play better in all facets of the game, other than special teams. Special teams look pretty good. But last week, offense and defense was not good enough, and they just need to play better.
Yeah. I do like to mention, I believe Christian Watson will be out this week from the injury report was I was looking at, and they're going to have Amari Rodgers back in the special team switch. He's got to be careful and not fumble the ball like he did, I believe.
Yeah, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
Well, so thank you for bringing that up. You guys like holding the ball like this and like pops up this way. They got lucky that
yeah.
And was it Runyon who got it, or
it was I think it was Tanya. It was one that it was a Degora.
With a tape.
I think it was
Degora. Yeah.
It was one of the tight ends.
Right. You're lucky he was there. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
That could have been a catastrophe, and and that's all on him. I mean,
exactly.
Amari Rodgers has been a big disappointment. I don't really see much turning around in his. I don't think he has a great attitude.
Nope.
I don't know. Is that picked? Incomplete. But so I think it's halftime in this game. Washington's up 3-0. But Christian Watson's been a little bit of a disappointment too. I mean, he's gotten hurt. He hasn't been able to stay healthy.
Yeah.
And he's had a few nice end arounds. He's kind of like been like a rich man's Tyler Davis for a very expensive price, as in, a second rounder and a third round, right? What did they give up to move up again? The third rounder, right?
Yes, third, second rounder. I believe we also gave up a 6th round pick in it too. So
sure.
It was very high price.
Early returns are not good. It was a good thing we got Romeo Doubs because if all we had was Christian Watson right now, we'd kind of be in trouble. So Romeo Doubs kind of allowed us to not miss Christian Watson as much, but we invested a lot in Christian Watson. I know it's just rookie, it's early returns, not great, but things can turn around. Don't get me wrong, but so far I'm not loving what I'm seeing out of him. But Amari Rodgers, I'm almost ready to write off.
Yeah.
I just don't. They haven't shown any, not even a tiny bit of confidence in him as a receiver. No. Obviously he's the returner, but he's not even that great at that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
was very happy to give Amari Rodgers because I think a lot of it was just that we wanted a receiver so badly, and he was a receiver. But he looked all right. It's not good. Not good on that front.
It is,
and it's another. Really, it was probably fine that we traded away our third round pick because Packers had a lot of bad third round picks. Started with Oren Burks. Oren Burks was a terrible selection.
Don't bring that up.
When they made that pick, right?
Yeah.
I looked him up on just like these YouTube. This guy was like throwing his body at people, not tackling. And I think I said this in the podcast before, but probably when he went to the 49ers, but he just was not anyway. And they traded up for him too. I don't know who made that decision to draft him. Seemed like a very upstanding guy. Talking about the fact that he was disappointed. He had a great college resume in terms of what do you call it?
Stats.
Community service. No, not stats. Off the field stuff. Community service. It seemed like a real smart guy, but just on the field, it seemed like he was more of an impressive guy than he was a football player, because on the field it didn't seem like he was very good. And nothing happened in the Packers to the contrary. So, it seems like the third round has been a real bad round for us between him. Who else did we get? Sternberger was the third, or was that a fourth round?
Yeah, no, that was the third.
Third?
That was
right.
That was the third.
So Sternberger. Then you got DeGuara. He's not been looking great.
No.
Then you got Amari Rodgers, and you got there's definitely more that I'm missing now. We didn't have a third round this year, right? Because we got Christian Watson. So maybe that's the curse of the third rounder for us. Christian Watson will get that. Yeah, that's an important round. You got obviously you need to hit in the first, you need to hit in the second, but the third, you can get some nice players there, but there's more risk there. The Packers have not had any success in the third round.
Nope,
not good. It
has not been good. All right, let's turn away from the Packers Jets and let's move on to the whole NFL wise, which is the refs. How many times, I know we mentioned this on the podcast about how annoying they were with the play clock when we were trying to introduce a new technique and new strategy for the refs.
Yep.
But again, how many times are we going to see the refs annoy us? I feel like they're going to almost cost teams games every week. It's going to be come down to one play, and you can go see on third downs with whatever team it was. They're going to throw a flag out no matter what the situation is, and they're just going to give the team a 5 yards because they want to be more competitive. Again, this has been the very annoyance, I think, for me, probably you, and NFL fans that I've watched over the years. The NFL refs have been a main concern to me. But the one I can go really back to where it really kind of ticked me off was the Rams Saints one in that NFC Championship game, that no call on PI when that was clearly PI. Then you can go earlier years with Patriots Jaguars when there should have been a PI call on Stephon Gilmore when it wasn't. Again, numerous times, especially the roughing the passer call, which I remember for the Packers wise, when I got to see a tie, the Packers Minnesota Vikings game, Clay Matthews sacks when it should not have been a roughing the passer, and Jair Alexander picks it off, and that didn't happen. Again, the refs are really annoying to me. They've really made it worse to me. Every year, you always see the one play, the refs always mess up that should have not been called. That's my case. I don't know what your thoughts on that, Mike, but yeah.
So I think it's tough, and I spoke about the delay game last week. I was very heated about that, and there's a reason why, and that's because I think if there's one thing that there was zero gray area in, is that look at a clock, it's zero. They haven't spiked the ball, throw a flag. Stuff like this, right? There is a gray area. Look. You want to protect the quarterback. I get that for multiple reasons. One, you don't want people getting hurt.
Yeah,
it makes sense. The quarterback's the most important player, marketing-wise, for the league, right? If all your star quarterbacks are hurt, then you're not going to have a lot of viewership like you would if all of them were playing. So you want to protect the quarterbacks. They're also, kind of more risk because they hold the ball every play, right? And they could get hit by this huge defensive lineman. So you want to protect the quarterbacks, right? But, obviously what happened in the Falcons game and the Chiefs game, which is what we're talking about, those should not have been called. I look at the Chiefs game, right? The ball was out. You still protect. I get that still protecting the quarterback thing. But what else is he supposed to do? He needs to grab the ball. He can't brace himself because he's holding on to the ball. At some point, it is what it is, right? The guy, Devontae, the guy's walking in. It's about intent, right? What's the intent? If he walks into Devontae hits him, the guy falls down, but he's walking like this. He hits him, and he just because he's walking, hits him. There was no intent behind it, right? The reason why we're all mad is because he's like this, there's intent, right? What happened in the Chiefs game was not intent, right? The guy's trying to make a play and he falls on him. So you're trying to protect the guy, but there's no intent there. You kind of almost have to make this a judgment call.
Exactly.
Where you have to look at the intent. Is the guy trying to, what happened with Rodgers and Anthony Barr? We're trying to throw him into the ground. Okay, there's intent there, right? He's trying to hurt him. You guys playing the ball and falls on him. It's what it is. It's football, But I get from the referee's perspective, look, we have to follow it by the letter of the law, just like I'm trying to say the letter of the law of assault is this. You have to follow that. So it's a tough position. And that's why we talk about this in the NFL, right? Because there's so much going on in the NFL that obviously you can't be tackling people before they have a chance to catch the ball. What's the point of having the game? So there needs to be right. If you could go and tackle a guy when he's about to catch the ball before it comes, right? There'd be what's the point of watching it, right? Like he's obviously not going to catch it. The guy just speared you before he had a chance to catch the ball. So you need to have these rules where you can even have the game, right? So the rules are integral, but they also completely change the game based off of what call you make, right? If you have a pass interference call, you get all the way down there, right? You could if you could throw the ball 70 yards, you get a pass interference call 70 yards down the line, you get a free 70 yards. Like that's huge, right? It's a huge impact on the game based on a call, right? Now, if it's the right call, then it's the right call. If it's the wrong call, now you just completely change the course of the game because of a call.
Yeah.
So I think that the NFL really needs to understand, look, we're not trying to second guess refs or anything, but there needs to be a way for people to, if we're able to see it, right, as people sitting in their basement, right?
Yeah.
On their TV, if you're able to see that and say, hey, this is wrong, right? And then get all mad about it. The whole stadium is mad about it. No one's disagreeing that it's wrong, right? But you say, well, the referee didn't see it on the play, so that is what it is because we don't want to second guess the referees. I think that's the problem. I think what needs to happen is, look, the referees are doing their best. Obviously, you probably want to err on the side. If there's any doubt, err on the side of what the ref saw on the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think New York, right? Not as in New York, me listening in New York in my basement, right? New York as the league should be able to, if they can get the call and just overturn a call, say, hey, that's not the right call. Right now there's a stoppage in play. We want to look at this and make sure we get this right because there's a big impact on this game. Yeah. And say, hey, that's not the right call. We're going to overturn. So not necessarily leading up to a review. Basically, like, how they get the Mike Pereira come on? Well, I don't think that was the right call. But the head referee in New York should have the ability to say, hey, this is not the right call. We're going to overturn it. And we're going to make you change the call. Now, maybe the thing is you kind of have to – the head referee can't be doing it for every game, especially at the 1 o'clock games, right? The Monday night game is different. There's nothing else going on there. So you have to have some kind of process in place. Do I have the answer? Not at the moment. No, it's not as easy as the delay game conversation. Yep. But – yeah, I mean, I think it's a big problem. And I think we've known this for a while. I mean, one missed call by the refs can change the course of the game.
Yes.
And most games, 5 to 6, 5 to 10 calls go wrong. Hopefully they don't change the course of the game, but they very well may. And it's happened before. It's going to happen again. There's probably no way to completely fix it, but you could definitely diminish it by, I think, increasing the ability for New York to change calls.
Yeah.
And I think it's something we need to talk about because I think this is a great example of roughing the passer. I think pass interference is a great example of it. I think delay games is a great example of it. Just the NFL, like we don't really talk about this in baseball, right? What do you talk about in baseball? Like balls and strikes, right? Like, oh, the guy missed the strike zone. You could probably automate and I think I just looked up that they're trying that in AAA, automating the ball strike zone, right?
So to clarify on that, I have seen that in person of people doing that. I've seen that like in the non-minor league system. I saw it last year they try out and it was pretty effective. The plan is they're doing it to AAA and then hopefully they'll get it to MLB, which is very effective though. And I can explain later if we want to go into that, but yeah.
I think it makes sense. Look, we can't be afraid to automate things, right? Because if what it's really ending in is, a better game and a more accurate calls on the field, then everyone kind of wins. Now you can say, yeah, but the refs have no job anymore. But, I think you still need to have refs on the field, right? Maybe you don't need as many. But, make the refs' job easier too. Look, the refs have to sit out there while they get booed by the whole stadium. That's not easy. And they got to make their job easier. Like if we have the ability, everyone kind of wins. You can't be afraid of automating this kind of stuff. And I think we need to try to do that. I really do. Like, we got to be moving forward, and it's clearly a problem. There's no, and we haven't said one thing about the rough and the passer thing because I think we're both in agreement. It's probably the wrong call, but there's not much you can do about it other than have some kind of automated, some kind of levels of review. Like, you can't just leave it down to these refs on the field. They can miss it. They're humans too, They miss it. They don't see something, and it sucks to have to sit on your couch and be like, we just got screwed. And you don't really say that in baseball because it's one pitch. Like maybe it could matter, but it might not matter as much. But every player's sprawled out. It's clear if the guy catches the ball or not. Usually, right? A tag. A lot of this stuff could be reviewed. Like what can't be reviewed in baseball? Balls and strikes, right? So that's really the only thing that there's any question about. Hockey, right? What is it? There's the puck goes and that's reviewable, right? Then the other like slashing or something, but like usually that's caught, right? If that stuff happens. Same thing with basketball. Really football, where there's so many different types of penalties, right? Because there's just so much going on. The field is so much wider and so much bigger than every other sport out there that there's so many different types of penalties and so many things going on that we just need to find a better solution than just 6 guys running around the field and hoping they see everything. Is that going to happen? Absolutely not. No. They're not going to do that. So that's why we can lose sleep over this, but it's going to happen. Bad calls are going to happen.
I mean, it's always going to happen, but I feel like the league, like with their resources, the money that they all have, like technology that we have today, we can it doesn't it's not going to be fixed. Like, yes, there's going to be still missed calls, but we can fix it, move the needle a little better to how he did before. Like, as we mentioned, that play, which that delayed game last week, make that adjust to that. Roughing the passer, okay. Where is this allowed? We obviously know we can't, no concussion, hit, helmet to helmet. We have to make sure that we can improve the game. That's what the NFL is trying to do, improve the game with concussion stuff, and that's why they're being very strict about quarterbacks getting hit. It's their number one product, as you were mentioning in the marketing. This is what the NFL's got to do, is just be a bit better and move the needle. So we got to do a better job of that. And then I also like to mention that most of the calls are against the defense. It's kind of hard now today of how is the defensive person supposed to play? How am I supposed to tackle? How am I supposed to block? How am I supposed to cover this guy? Etc. That's kind of I feel the upset for the defensive players, especially it's kind of being a one-sided offense compared to the defense. It's not fair. It's just honestly not.
No, I agree. I mean, I think it's clear that the defense has a short end of the stick.
Yeah.
Because the NFL ultimately wants high-scoring games. That's what sells tickets. That's what interests people, and I get that. I mean, usually you're more interested if the score is higher than lower too, right?
Yeah.
So it's tough to be a defender in this league. We're getting paid, so I mean, whatever. But no, I mean, what happened with Chris Jones? He made the right play there. I don't think he did anything malicious.
Wow.
I think he made the right play, and I think that was the wrong call. They can defend it if they want. Maybe under the letter of the law, that's the right call if you interpret it that way. But then I think there should be something that says if the ball's out, you don't get the protection of a passer anymore, because I think you have to look at everything in the vacuum again. And with football, right? There's so many different caveats. That you can't write up every single thing that happened. Well, if the fumble was just randomly a fumble and then you try to drill this guy in the ground, obviously you shouldn't be able to do that, right? But if the fumble was up in the air above him and you go to catch it and have your hand and fall on the quarterback, right? That's just you playing football. That should be there needs to be some room for interpretation here. There can't be everything just
broad,
black and white with this, because again, it's not assault on the street where somebody pushes you down. There's no reason for it. This is
everyone's playing football. This is a physical game, right?
Yeah.
If it's okay to tackle somebody with the ball, well, maybe you don't realize the ball is out of his hands, right? And then you tackle him anyway. Like, things are going to go wrong. It is a high-speed game. You have to have some ability to use your judgment, and that's what I don't think anyone that uses their judgment probably says that's not the right call. I mean, I don't think the call that they had against Brady. I mean, what else is the guy supposed to do? He can't be making those calls, even if it's the right call based off the law. Then they have to change the rule. Then, I mean, I don't know, but it's tough. You can't write the rules for every single possibility. It's just not possible, right? So
Yeah.
That's why I think it needs to be automated. There needs to be some kind of oversight with somebody in the league office that has the full replay ability for these calls, where they can say, hey, that's not the right call, change it. And if they can't get it, the clock's still running and can't get it in, then that's what happens. You have to ultimately go with what's on the field. But if you have the time to make the call, to make the change, and we all know it's clear and obvious that the call was wrong, it should be changed. I mean, but that's not going to happen this season. And obviously, the competition committee, the rules committee would have to change this. I don't think anyone would vote for it, honestly. I don't think they'd get enough votes because it's just too much of a slippery slope. It's too much of a slippery slope, though, because, like, if you can make that change on this stuff, then what makes you say that you can't make a change on another thing? And I get that. I mean, I do think it is a slippery slope to have this just kind of, because my interpretation can be different than your interpretation. Yeah. And like, somebody needs to have the ultimate say. And that's what the referee's job is. And, but the thing is, the referee needs to be helped too, because look, a judge in a case, right, has the ability to sit there as long as he wants, has many questions. In football, it's all happening in real time. It's fast. You can't say, hey, stop, reread the what do you call it? In the court cases, they write up a script, right, or whatever. Go back to the record. I forgot what happened. Can you say what again? And they can repeat it, right?
Yeah,
here you can't do that, right? You have to make a call on the field, and it's not reviewable. So we need to help the referees help us, right? And I don't think we are doing that right now. I think we're saying, like, make the call based off of what you see on the field. If it's like an action play that's not a penalty, then you can review it ultimately. But if it's a penalty, it's really whatever you see on the field. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's the right thing, because penalties are not like baseball where you're second guessing balls and strikes. This is second guessing something that has a lot of impact on the game. Yes. And we're not able to get the right answer. It's not second guessing, right? If you were driving to California, right, and you were and I said, get on the highway. You go, nah, I'm going to take that's not the right way. I'm going to go here. Like, I can't allow you to go on the wrong road the opposite way. Otherwise, we'll never get where we're going, right?
Exactly.
This is not like, oh, I'm going to just, not instead of getting this off this exit, I'll get off the next exit. Maybe it'll be like 2 minutes longer, but I'll still get to the same location. Okay, like whatever. It's an immaterial difference. Some of these penalties are a very material difference on the game, and we're just letting them go because we can't get it right. And I think we should be able to get it right. Yeah. It's not immaterial. If it was immaterial, let it be. If it's material, we got to get it right.
So I like to counter with that of 3 points. First one is a quote from Jerry Maguire, if you've ever seen that movie, which is basically saying, help me help you. Yep. We want the refs to help us. How can we help you? That's what we're trying to improve this game, as I mentioned before. Other thing is, we need to be specific as we can with the NFL rules, basically the law. You have to be as specific as possible to make it so clear that you can't be like, it can be less like, oh, this person can sneak away with like doing this again out of a contract. Like, we have to be very specific at what we're talking about. You can't be that broad. You have to be very specific at knowing what we're saying exactly of our words. Be specific as possible. And I like to bring up, do you mind if I bring up a quick story though?
Sure.
Okay. So if Mike knows this, I worked like the past few summers, I've worked as a pool lifeguard in Delaware for where I stay in the summer. So what I have done is when I work in my indoor pool and we have lap swimming for, I don't know, at least 2-3 hours, we'd like to give the patrons that time because we want to help the patients out and make them have a great time. But what my supervisors and my boss put on the whiteboard is being like, they write the lap swim rules. They are specific as possible so we don't have any controversy, because before my first year, we had all this controversy. It was like, well, they can't go in this lane. Can we go in this? Like, it created a whole bunch of like annoyance of patrons and the workers. It was a mess. Until next time, we like my boss, the supervisors all sat down and really came up, how can we be specific as possible and figure this out? And they wrote on the whiteboard, and we've had really no much complaints since. Like, that's what the NFL has got to do. Like, everyone's just got to come together and sit down and really listen as basically a democracy, for goodness sake, is what I'm going to say. Basically be a democracy and figure this all out. We need to have the reps with us. We need to have the commissioners. We need to have the owners. We need to have everybody together for this. Like, there's going to be an owners meeting next week, as Dan Snyder mentioned on the news, or NFL mentioned, ESPN, whatever. We need to sit together and really discuss the issue and come up with a solution. That's what we need. We need that.
Yeah. And I mean, one of my goals was one, to read the CBA, which I haven't really done. I should try to get back to that. But two, I would like to read the rule book some more, because, I mean, look, there is statute written stuff about this that I haven't read as much as I probably should, but we probably should. Look, if we want to have an opinion on this stuff, we should be reading it, right? Because how can you have an opinion on something if you really haven't read it? And then a lot of people, right, haven't fully, and that's why I shared a statute that Devontae Adams got. No one was reading that. They were just saying, this is ridiculous. Yeah. Well, okay. Is it ridiculous? Maybe. But you need to look at, say, well, what is he being charged with? Let's look at what the law says, right? Because ultimately what's on paper is been passed, right? That's our, you have to go with some kind of written thing. But if you have no interest, right? And that's what a lot of these people, that's where society is at, I think.
Yeah.
People just want to talk. Now, look, did we do a lot of research before we had this? So you could say, look, we just want to talk too. But you have to have some ownership of the truth of the matter, that if you want to talk about something, you need to at least do your research and not just start talking and talking fallacies, which is what a lot of people, I think, in this Devontae Adams situation is doing. Yep. And then what a lot of people in this situation is doing, I think, too. No one really knows what they're talking about. They're just kind of speaking. I admit that I probably didn't read the rule book. Maybe the refs were right in this situation, right, based off what the rule book says. I don't really know what the rule book says. But the rule book, I think, in this case is wrong. And that's fair. You could have an opinion that the rule book is wrong. But then the call is still the right call if the rule book says that, right? Because my opinion doesn't matter. What matters is what is in the rule book, right? Because that's the rules that we're setting. So do I think the refs made the wrong call? In my opinion, yes. Based off the rule book, I have to do more research. I haven't really read about what happens if the ball is in the guy's arm and he falls on it. I honestly don't think it says anything about it, because it's such a unique situation that they probably didn't write anything about that. Do I know that for sure? No, I'd have to read it. And I probably am curious. I probably am going to go look at that. But it probably doesn't specifically say that. Now, it might say something about like the passer gets protection all the way through the play, which then you probably include it. But then when does he not become a passer anymore? You know, like if you intercept the ball and he goes to tackle you and you just like completely stiff arm him, right? Is that attacking the passer? Like, well, when does he not become the passer anymore? Because now he's trying to tackle you, you know, like, so that I think needs to be defined somewhere. Is it? I'm not sure. Maybe it is. I have to read the rule book. I just haven't. So,
well, let me ask you this question. As this is what my law professor will say every time in class. The entire classroom will literally ask me to go over this one simple thing she'll say the first day, and she'll say for months till the end of the semester for me, which is basically asking you, like, when you get a new phone, do you read that entire small contract of saying like all the agreements, like, bro, like, do you even like read all that?
Sorry. So the one, the Bear, I'm going to respond to that, but the Bears are just scored a touchdown.
Dang it.
And Fields couldn't get up after the play. And then he got up and like did like 3 push-ups. He got up. I'm not sure what happened there, but the Bears are up now 7-3. So you're talking about the terms and conditions of like a phone or something.
Yes. So like, let's say you get a new phone and you get the contract and agreement. Do you read the entire thing of that small thing? Do you read the entire thing of going through that?
No, obviously not.
Exactly.
Obviously, if
So
you read every single legal jargon out there, right, you would have nothing else in your life. But if there was, it needs to be defined in there because if there was a conflict, they need to be able to say, hey, this is what the terms is.
yeah,
And you need to be aware if there's a conflict to read that. And I've done
Yeah.
that before. I've had a conflict with a company. So I looked at terms, and sometimes I say, hey, this is wrong. Sometimes it doesn't say anything about it. I say, hey, well, but you need to disclose this. Where's it say? And they can't point to it. And I won.
Mhm.
Actually, it happened that just yesterday. I don't want to go into the situation, but something with a situation, and I won that battle. And they need to disclose that if they're going to do something. It's called about legally doing the right business.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should be reading. The information has to be available to you. Whether or not you read it is one thing, right? I mean, look,
that's
a
your
phone
choice.
at the end of the day, what's the worst thing that probably can happen? What are you really going to get out of it? They could talk about you get like a liability waiver if you go to.
Yeah.
You said you went to the Packers, right? You had to sign
Yes.
that waiver. Did
Yes,
you really read it? Probably not. Why? Because you're going to go to the
No.
game. Did you read it?
I've read a little bit.
Right,
But
because you're going to go to the game anyway.
I was reading
It's
the
a free
instructions.
game, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what's the worst that could happen? What you did right though is that if somebody was you're on the sideline, right? If somebody was kicked the ball and hit you in the face, right? You can't sue them, right?
Exactly.
But because that was like an accident, right? But if
Yeah.
somebody came and pushed you down and just said, "Hey, German,
There
screw
we
you," and pushed you down, right? That the waiver doesn't count anymore because that was
Exactly.
intentional.
That's
And I was actually speaking to some guy online about it last night too. Again, no response from him because he's proven wrong. But a lot of people actually liked my comment and agreed with me on that one, so I appreciated that. But yeah, like you got to pick and choose. If you're signing a mortgage, right?
Yeah.
You have $500,000 at risk. Yeah, you got to read the goddamn mortgage, right? You can't be not reading that. Or if you're, signing a contract for a football contract, right? You should read the contract you're signing. You don't want to get screwed on it, right?
Exactly.
But if you're reading terms and conditions for for Facebook or something, or for like, at what point are you gonna It's just too much to read all that,
Definitely. Like, who is it? Who's a famous basketball player? Scottie Pippen, for example. Like, if you ever watched The Last Dance, like he got screwed over his contract. Like, he signed his way too early than he should have, and he was one of the lowest paid guys ever, and he didn't fully read the contract. Probably he didn't understand. Like, yeah, I just want to get my money quick and like fast. Like, you got you got to read the whole thing. That's your choice, but my suggestion, and probably your suggestion, Mike, read the whole thing before you make an opinion of something. Like, we're gonna have our opinions right away of like our quick reactions of Devontae shoving the guy. We're gonna have that quick reactions, but like it takes like probably like a couple like minutes, an hour, like whatever. It's gonna take us some time to fully understand it. Like it's gonna fully like help you. It's gonna take for us fully time to understand. Like, all right, here's my opinion after like looking at this stuff, all that. Like it's gonna take some time.
I think that's one thing with this situation. I think it's a lot in our society nowadays. Everyone's so used to getting information like that, and having an opinion like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes we got to take a step back and say, look, it's okay to have an opinion. I have a lot of opinions. You have a lot of opinions. Our viewers probably have a lot of opinions. But you got to understand at the end of the day, it's an opinion, right?
Yeah.
And your opinion can be different than mine. My opinion can be different than yours, which is okay. That's how you get better as a society, is people collaborating. Maybe we don't agree on something, but instead of hating each other, we say, hey, what's your opinion? What's my opinion? Okay, maybe my opinion is wrong here. Your opinion is wrong there. So what we could do is make a better opinion, all right? And now we're both better, right? When we were going back and forth with the logo we were creating for the podcast, right?
Yes.
You had ideas, I had ideas, and it ended up, I think, coming good. If you're a viewer, let us know what you think about the logo. I thought it came out pretty good at the end. Yeah. So what you do, instead of, I didn't get offended, like, hey, why didn't you like my logo? I've spent a lot of time on this, right? No, I said, okay, that's actually a good comment. Let me see if I can fix it. And it came out good. That's collaboration. That's how you get better. But I think a lot of times in society, I think the political environment has gone like this.
Yep.
Just the Twitter, there's a lot of conflict on it. Yeah. It's okay to have differing opinions. The question is are we able to have the conversation and move forward and come with a better solution instead of taking things personally and say like, no, screw you, I hate you. Like that's where I think our society's been, and also people taking things too far. Where like the same thing with Devontae Adams, like saying like, oh well, like this is just because of race. It's nothing to do with it. That has nothing to do with it. Or say this girl saying you're mansplaining me. It has nothing to do with it, right? So you're saying you can't speak to women because then they're gonna call you a mansplainer when all he was doing, this kid, right? And that's why I stood up for him, was say like, legally it's assault, but it's not as bad as if you punched him. That's all he was saying, right? And the girl completely jumped down at his throat. So who's in the wrong there? The girl. I mean, it's clearly wrong. Like, he wasn't doing anything wrong. He was treating her as an individual. He had no idea she was a paralegal, right? But then the girl's like dumping down his throat. But again, that's just a personal problem. I kind of go on rants sometimes. But we all need to be friendly. We all need to take others' opinions and say, I might not agree with your opinion. This is why. And the other person says, well, I don't agree with your opinion. This is why. Okay. Maybe we still don't agree with each other. And then at that point, say, okay, have a nice day, right? Or maybe say, okay, let's make a better opinion and find a common ground.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen that much in society anymore. And it's unfortunate because, I think it's an important way of learning and getting better as a society.
That's how we started with America, of Constitution,
absolutely,
Declaration of Independence, and we saw everyone like biggest debate coming into for history fans out there, or anyone who likes history, American history, mostly my favorite subject in high school. But anyway, we saw of like some people wanted to join as a colony, some didn't.
Yep.
They all collaborated. We stood up and fought for our freedom and everything, took the British out, and here we are today.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But ultimately, somebody has to have the power to make a decision too, because if you don't have to make any decisions, nothing gets done either. So it's the balance between having a collaboration, but also having somebody able to make a decision. And in this situation, the ref's the guys that can make the decision. The head referee in New York could be the guy that makes the decision. But we can't be afraid to say the video showing you're wrong on this call. We have to change this, right? Because right now, we're kind of taking the polarized viewpoint. Well, that's the call on the field. We can't second guess it, so move on. But is that right? Because now we're sitting here. The great thing about the computers, right, is everyone gets information so quick, so people can jump the gun. Yeah. But what's also great is people learn a lot, right? Because in the past, like in you're talking about the American Revolution, right? You had to wait for a paper to come or some guy to get weeks later. So something would happen in society. And then you would know about it for another 2 weeks. So everything is gone at that point. Yeah. You have to be in the situation to actually have input or for it to ever get to you, right? So now, we are very smart as people, right? Because we get all this information. Great, that's awesome. But there's a downside to that too. Now there's too many cooks in the kitchen. Everyone has an opinion, right?
Yeah.
But that's why we all need to take a step back and say, look, we have this information. It's great. We wanted the information. Right? No one's saying no one wants the information. We should have the information available to us. It's called transparency. But you need to be adult enough to say, I don't have all the information available to me. This is my opinion, and let's talk about it, and let's come to a common ground. So the NFL needs to agree that we need to find a solution here. We need to agree that it's never going to be perfect, right? There's always going to be bad calls that are made. But how can we do this the best way? I think it needs to be automated. I think there needs to be the ability for New York to call in and change calls on the field. But how that would be implemented, I'm not sure. But I'm not being paid that. So, that's up to somebody else to do that.
Yep.
But is there a problem? Absolutely. Am I really mad about these calls? I'm disappointed in the calls. It doesn't affect me personally because it wasn't my team. So, obviously, I'm not as mad as if it happened to the Packers. But, no, I mean, I definitely think that the Chiefs and Falcons fans have a point here. And, we were mad when this happened to Clay Matthews, right, with the rough and passer. That changed that game, right? Think about the rough and the passer where Jair Alexander got his first interception of his career. Packers would have won that game. Instead, the Vikings won, right? So, again, change the career. It could change our lives, right? Think about that. The Packers win the game. Maybe they make it further, and they win the Super Bowl that year in theory, right? There's so many –
there's so many variables.
Season's such a domino effect, right? Where you got one domino that it just falls apart, right? But if you left that domino in there, so we need to get it right. Is it going to be perfect? No, but we need to. We're not there yet. That's for sure.
Yep.
And that's the NFL should come out and say, look, this was wrong, right? Here's what we're going to do. Here's the steps we're going to take to figure out the solution. I think the NFL is very reactory, and I'll leave it because we've gone for a long time. But and I think this is where this cancel culture comes into play. We're like, look at the Tua Tagovailoa situation right now. Like, I think they're overcompensating because all these people are pissed off that they put him out there again, right? Honestly, I'm not so mad about that, right? Because I'm not a doctor, and I admit I'm not a doctor. Do I know that Tua Tagovailoa had a concussion? I mean, it looked like he had a concussion. I agree, but people looked at him, right, and they said he was okay to go out. He said thought he was okay to go out. I don't know. I mean, I thought that the NFL concussion protocol was good enough where they would have diagnosed if it was concussion or not. If that's not the case, then we got a big problem. I agree. It's very important to make sure these guys will go out there. But I think that the NFL has looked so bad that they put their player out there and got a concussion again or made it worse. And now they're going to overcompensate. And I think that's what happens in the NFL, where they overcompensate when people come after them. And it's almost like, cancel culture, in my opinion. And I don't think that should be the case. Again, we shouldn't be trying to cancel the NFL. We should be saying, hey, this is a problem. How can we fix it? And we should be working together to fix it. And the NFL shouldn't be so reactory. They should get in front of it, say, hey, this is not the right call, and this is what we're going to do to fix it. And they should be transparent about it. Yeah. Because everyone has the information available to them anyway. They watch the thing, right? So instead of trying to hide and be silent, say, look, we messed up on this. Here's how we're going to make it better going forward. There's nothing to hide here, The only thing you can do is cause further issues, in my opinion.
Definitely. I'm going to go off with 3 final things I'm going to say, and then we'll close out here since we've talked so much about the NFL refs very much. But I've enjoyed this conversation with you, Mike. First thing for Packer fans, if you want to say a controversy that, as Mike was mentioning, it didn't, the roughing the passer didn't affect me on that Sunday because it was my team. Fail Mary was the one against the Seahawks. That one was personal to me and probably to Mike, where that was a stupid call, should not have been made. And it was a bogus reason from I forget who's the Packers.
They said that it was simultaneous possession or something, and then it went to the receiver. Even though Morgan Burnett, right? Was it Morgan Burnett who caught that ball?
Yeah, I think it's Tremont. I think Tremont.
No, I don't think it was Tremont. I think it was Morgan Burnett. Okay, definitely wasn't Tremont. I know that for sure. I'll look it up, but it might have been somebody that wasn't the best player in the world either. Right? I thought it was Morgan Burnett.
I do remember when watching. I don't know if you ever watched the Packers documentary where it had 2010 to 2019. If you ever saw the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. If you ever saw it on YouTube or Packers documentary. But anyway, they interviewed Wes Larrabee, the Packers radio guy, and they were just asking about that. And what he was told was they did not want a riot to happen in Seattle. That was one of the reasons why that happened. So the Seahawks win and no riot happened. That was the reason, but I don't know.
So it was MD Jennings. Sorry, it wasn't Morgan Burnett.
Okay.
MD Jennings. But,
that was. Yeah.
MD Jennings, that's a throwback. I forgot about him. I wonder what's up with him. He doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. I hope he's doing well. MD Jennings, if you are watching the podcast right now, feel free to reach out. We'd love to have you on and talk about the Hail Mary. But yeah, I agree. I think that they probably were scared to overturn that.
Yeah.
I think those were the replacement referees. Don't forget,
yes.
Right? So, that had the stigma on there that they're replacement referees. But still, I don't know. That was definitely the wrong call in my opinion. I was absolutely pissed. I actually called the league the next day about 5 times. I got in touch with somebody and they hung up on me. Again, this is not the way. Because they got calls from other people. This happens every time. Every time there's a bad call, the league gets calls from people. I'm like, and I think they started playing things like we do not take calls about bad calls or whatever. I don't know, but I definitely called the league over the Hail Mary, and we also did a few other things. But I'll keep that to myself. I can tell you, Jeremy, after that, I'm not going to put this on the. A few other things me and my friends did, but my friends and I did. But, we're not going to put that on YouTube. So
okay.
nothing that.
Yeah, the other thing I like to talk about was Brett Favre, which I'm not going to talk about his legal whatever action. Like, let's go back to his playing day. When he was playing, how many times did you see that man get concussions? Pretty much like all the time, a lot of concussions. Am I right?
Hope not. I mean, maybe, but he never missed a game. So if
He
you got
never
a lot of
missed.
concussions, that's probably not good, right?
I mean,
Um,
he said in his post career he's got a lot of concussions, and then he's came back into the game
yeah, but
completely
that's
fine.
not good. They shouldn't. No, I mean,
Exactly.
you don't want to mess around people's brains.
Exactly.
And um, look, if he had it, if there was a concussion, they diagnosed it, and they put him back out there, that's obviously a problem. I mean, there should be
Yeah.
huge fines that come from that.
Yeah.
But if they diagnosed it not as, and then that's on the doctor. I mean, ultimately, these doctors get paid a lot of money for what they're doing. If they can't be diagnosing people right, then the doctor needs to be fired. That's what they did.
Exactly.
But also, we want to make sure we're not scapegoating people just because we want the attention off of the league.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, and I'm not going to have an opinion on it because I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But
You know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hope he didn't have a concussion. I hope Tua is good because Tua's impressed me so far this year, and I don't want to see somebody get hurt and mess up their brain for the rest of the year, or rest of their lives. So,
Yeah.
I hope he's okay, and I hope they do the right thing, and I hope they make the concussion protocol good because the intent there is good. I mean, you don't want these players to get CTE and for the rest of their lives have brain damage. You don't want that, and no one wants that. They're putting their bodies on the line for entertainment at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And if they get a concussion, they need to make sure they're fully healed because there could be a lot of downstream effects from that. So I understand the problem here, but I don't think we should be changing our approach to roughing the passer calls for other games because of this. I think that if the approach was working based off the way the rules were written, then you need to stick with that.
Yeah, definitely. My final saying, I'll leave it off with this, is at the end of the day, like what the NFL is trying to do is make sure everyone has a great time, enjoys the game. But the most important factor the NFL is especially trying to do is safety. They're trying to make sure the game is safe as possible. It can be like
in
football.
Theory.
In theory, yes. In theory.
I don't know if that's really true, but in theory.
In theory, we'll say that. In theory, they're trying to make it the safest as possible. And you see it today. Football is one of the most roughest sports, especially like parents don't want their kids playing in high school because of how many concussions you see the rate of going up every year of high school kids playing football. Like, they're trying to make it safe, as Mike was saying in theory. I think they're trying to do it, but they're not doing it the right way that they should be doing it. They got to do a better job at like fixing and approaching the problem of the safety miss.
Yeah, I mean, look, like Rogers said this on McAfee, and I'll leave it at this because we've gone for a while. But in football is an inherent dangerous sport, right?
Yep.
This almost is kind of like Squid Games, right? It's like immoral. Think about it, right? It was immoral for the people to watch these guys kill each other, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, no one's killing each other in football, right? So that's a stretch. But if you think about it, right? I mean, it's kind of a little bit weird, or kind of like immoral for us to sit back here on our couch having a beer, betting on these people physically hurting each other, basically. Obviously, I love football, and it's a very exciting sport, but it's dangerous. But the thing is, the players know what they're signing up for. They're signing up for to get tackled by 300-pound people. So there has to be some, and they're getting paid very well for it, right? No one's forcing them to be on that field, right? If we were forcing this person, like in Squid Games, they were basically forced to be there, right? Here, they're not forced. They can leave at any time. Look, Antonio Brown jumped off the field and ran away, right? So no one's forcing you to be on the field, right? If that's your job and you put your body on the line, at some point there's inherent risk that comes with the price of admission of being an NFL football player that you're going to get hurt, right? There's no way. It's very limited that somebody gets their whole career without having an injury. So we can't necessarily be blind to the fact that it's a dangerous sport. You're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
You're signing up for it, and it kind of is what it is. Now, if somebody has a concussion, you don't want to put them back on the field, right?
Exactly.
But can we say that we can't stop the concussion to begin with? No. I mean, it is what it is. We could try to with good helmet technology, those things on the head for practice, right? You can do all these, but at the end of the day, they're all not band-aids of the situation, but there's no fail safe here. There's no way that we're going to prevent concussions. There's no way we're going to prevent injuries in the NFL. It's part of the price of being an NFL player, and we have to admit to that. We have to admit that there's a inherent risk. We can do our best to mitigate it, but at the end of the day, you're at risk, and it is what it is. Don't be a football player if you don't want to do it.
Exactly. All right.
And here, speaking back to more controversy, if you want to talk, I just got a notification. Watson is a new lawsuit against him.
Oh gosh, what now?
I don't know. But here's a question for you. What took him so long to file the lawsuit, right? Like, he's been having these lawsuits against him for years, right? Unless he's been doing it still. I mean, if he's doing it still, that's a different story, right? Now that's a real big problem. But no, this is during 2020. So the person really took him 2 years to put a lawsuit in? I don't know. But is another lawsuit against the Sean Watson. So yeah.
I don't know, because I keep hearing there's gonna be like 100 cases over this entire time that it's gonna be or more. And like they're just gonna keep doing it to like either for money or something, like a bunch of reasons, and I don't want to get into it because we've gone too much. But yeah, like it's got out of hand, and like at this point, he's got to handle he's handled most of them. But like,
but how do we know at this point people aren't just coming out of the woodworks to try to get? That's people are calling this kid a money grab, right? But I mean, he ultimately got pushed out. How many? Again, at what point do you say all these other people went after this wrong? I could get in the beginning, right? You don't want to be. If this happened to you, you don't want to be. But there's like 30 girls that came out of it now. What's taking them 2 years to come out? I don't know. That's a question I have for whoever just put the lawsuit. What took you so long to do this? But yeah, maybe it's just somebody who says, "Oh yeah, I saw Deshaun Watson once. Let's put a lawsuit in." I have no idea. I'm not saying that's the case, but it's just interesting that it's taken that long. But again, I don't know, so I'm not. I don't want to make comments about it, but yeah, just a thought.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. All right. Well, we finished our subjects, which I think we did a pretty good show of doing that too, of just going very in depth.
I made some controversial topics. People probably, if they're watching the show, will cut some of this stuff up and try to make us look bad. So at least make me look bad.
It's fine. We'll see. But yeah. But guys, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you guys tuning in for PackReacts, as we love doing this, and hopefully we get some Packer fans or any NFL fan at the very least. Mostly we're just focusing on Packer fans so we can have that. But again, you guys know where to find me as usual on here. About 6 subscribers. That's a 6 people. Hey, there we go. 6 subscribers from 200. Let's hit that goal. That's been the goal all year, and you'll see me tomorrow night streaming it with some of my Philly friends. We'll be streaming the Phillies game.
Yeah, wait, we can't sign off yet.
I wasn't
done
yet. I wasn't done
Let's
yet.
Go. Phillies moved on, huh? The Phillies moved on. Congrats.
Yes. So now we're playing the Braves.
If we're gonna have to do some podcasts if it's the Phillies New York World Series.
We will definitely, if that occurs. But heck, I don't want the Yankees to win. I just don't. That's just me. I mean,
Gary Cole looked pretty good. He had his start. It was the opposite of the. It was like the Giants. They came out loud looking that great, and then he turned it around. So
yeah, that did. Yep. All right, I conclude with yours, and then we'll be done with this.
So you can find me on Twitter at Arvo15, on Instagram, Titletown Memes, on Twitter, the PackReacts podcast Twitter. I've been running that for the most part. So if you don't like anything I'm writing, it's probably me. Sorry. That's really it. On Reddit, Arvo95, I think. But yeah, feel free to reach out. We still love to have people on it. The podcast, we got to get on it. I've been slacking on that, but
yes, definitely.
I'm still in quarter end at work in Germany. I'm sure it's pretty busy at school. In terms of the next episode, we'll probably have an episode next week. The week after that, I'm on vacation actually, so I think we're gonna have to skip that one.
That's fine.
So we'll talk about the Jets, the Commanders. I was thinking about maybe going to that Commanders game, but now I went on vacation. I was thinking about maybe doing a drive. I'm going to Tennessee, so I was thinking about maybe, going to like the Smoky Mountains out there. We were thinking about taking a drive down Washington and going to the game and continuing down.
Oh.
But it would be too far. We'd have to like rent the car one way because I wouldn't want to drive all the way back up to New York. So we're not doing that. So hopefully I'll be able to watch the game. I might have to miss that game too. You know what's interesting actually? Last year I went to Utah around this time. Guess who they were playing? And I missed the game.
49ers.
No, Washington football team.
Oh.
So now this year it'll be Washington. That's crazy. So we played them the same week, 2 years in a row, and I might miss both those games. But I'm going to try my best to watch this one. I think I may be able to watch it. Definitely watching the game against the Jets. Hoping if anyone's going to in New York, going to a Packers bar, feel free to reach out. First of all, I'd love to meet more New York Packers fans. But two, I might be trying to hit up one of the bars in the city. I usually go to what do you call it? Kettle of Fish in New York City.
Is that the Cheesehead TV like bar?
Yeah.
Packer, like bar? Yeah.
Yeah. But my friend just moved to the Upper East Side. I think there's one over there called the Three Monkeys or Brass. No, not Brass. I think it's the Three Monkeys or something. And I believe that's a Packers bar on the Upper East Side. So I'm going to try to go to that, I think, on Sunday. So we'll see how that goes. I'll definitely give you an update on next week if I do make it. But that's the plan right now. So I think I'll be able to make it there.
All right.
So.
Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in once again. Appreciate it. As we mentioned, we'll hopefully figure out to have our schedule and let you guys know about our new show coming up soon. And yeah, we'll have that soon. But thank you guys for tuning in once again. And yeah, as always, you know how to say it, Packer fans. Go, Pack, go.
Go, Pack, go.
There we go.